All right, Brittany, I didn't want to leave you hanging, so let's just go ahead and have a lesson and let's just go ahead and talk about this. I couldn't find anything in Sub 2 Vault, and I looked at it and I was just like, oh my goodness, there's like 3,000 something videos in there. And anyway, let's just rip this apart. Cool. And I'll drop it in the community so everybody can see it. So, first, what we need to understand is the entry fee. All right, so when Pace, brought to the table the 7 entry fee numbers, all he's doing is giving you a formula or a framework in order to understand all the pieces of the puzzle that are possible to have that you need to account for to make sure that you don't lose money in a deal. All right, that's it. So before we get to the entry fee, let's just talk about a simple, basic cash transaction. All right, and I know y'all know this, but I just want to illustrate this first and then we'll move on. Cool. So essentially what we do is we identify a seller who has a problem. And then this seller has something that we want as a buyer. They have a property and they have rights to that property. As a buyer, we have money. Okay. The simple transaction, all we're doing is taking and we're just exchanging value. So we're giving the seller money, they're giving us deed, and then the house becomes ours. All right. That's a simple, basic transaction. All right. Very simple. We don't need attorneys. We don't need title companies. We don't need anything in order to do this. You do this every day at the grocery store when you check out. All right. There's no difference in this house right here and a banana. Okay. You still have to have a receipt for your banana. Cool. So the deed is the receipt. Now, once we understand that, now we just have to bring in all of the other factors that makes this happen so we can structure better deals or win-win opportunities, right? A win for the buyer and a win for the seller. Cool. All right. So once we understand that, now we can look at the 7 parts of an entry fee. So when we look at the 7, and you got to excuse my handwriting. All right. I'm not a doctor, but I was trained in calligraphy by a doctor. But anyway, 7 parts to entry fee. So you have cash to seller. This is nothing more than that money bag that I just drew out. All right. It's just how much cash do they want? That's it. All right. That's a part of every deal. Right. And I think even yesterday when we was talking, Brittany, I was like, hey, how much money do they need at closing? That's literally the first thing we need to identify. After we identify that, well, arrears. We need to understand, is there debt on the property? All right. Arrears, to break that down simply, that's all that means. What debt is existing and currently needs to be paid off on this property? And it doesn't matter if the debt can be left. It doesn't matter if the debt can be rolled over. That doesn't matter yet. All we need to identify right now is the debt that is owed on that property. So this is your mortgage. This is liens, fines, the list goes on and we can get creative, but essentially it's some type of debt. Okay. The common is going to be mortgage and it's going to be liens. That's the most common, right? You got the mortgage, the loan that was taken out by a lender that still has to be paid off. And then you've got liens. Maybe they hired contractors, and somebody put in liens against their property because that's the thing that they own, a value. Cool. So we need to identify those things. And this is all just part of the sales process, right? And then you have cost of acquisition. Now, cost of acquisition, don't make this overly complicated. Where you're at right now, the cost of acquisition could easily be nothing because you're doing everything. But let's just say that, the cost of acquisition was this deal came to you from Bob, the wholesaler, right? So Bob's a wholesaler. Well, Bob wants 10K in order to in order to give you or assign you the rights to buy this property. In that case, you would write down Bob's 10K right here in cost of acquisition. Cool. Now, if Bob doesn't exist and there's not another party that you have to pay, for instance, even a VA, right? Let's just say you've got a VA that you're hiring and you're paying them commission to, something popped up on my screen. It always does this. You're paying them commission to generate deals and opportunities for you. Well, if that's true, then you would put their commission down right there. All right, so that's the cost of acquisition. Okay, closing costs. Now, closing costs, you're always going to have closing costs. Normally, it's going to be between $600 and $1,500. Okay, really depending on what type of transactions you're doing, but the cheapest you can get anything done is $600, and it's probably going to be super hard for you to get that done now. So I would not factor in $600. I would definitely always factor in, a good rule of thumb would probably be $1,000 for always factor in closing costs. And what this is paying for your title company or your attorney or your title search, all those things, right? I mean, we could go on and on and on. All right, but that's a good rule of thumb. Renovation. Well, the reason we're buying the properties is not because it was built yesterday, right? I mean, that would be cool, but most likely there's some upkeep that needs to happen. This can be as simple as paint, right? So, paint will run you anywhere between $20 and $25 a square in most cases. Hiring a good painter that's going to come in there and, fix drywall, prep the walls, make it look like A class. Or, you could hire, Jack from church, and Jack will come over there and paint it for $800 plus paint, right? Again, things, problems, and you find the solution. That's the name of the game. Cool. Holding costs. Holding cost is, well, I'm going to buy the property from day one, right? Now, from day one until I sell the property, how much is that going to cost me? You still have to pay for electric. You still got to pay for water. If there's gas, insurance, right? You still have to pay for those things. So that's your holding costs. All right. Then you got marketing costs. Again, you may not have marketing costs right now because you're doing everything. However, maybe you're going to run ads, or you're going to reach out to a dispo team, or you're going to, what else we got? Maybe you got your internal team and you're paying your VAs, or you're paying your partner, or you're paying something, right? Like an agent, right? Who's, promoting it really well, right? That's going to be marketing costs. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. But, holding costs, I would factor in probably anywhere between $200 to $400 a month. Marketing costs, I normally just do a flat $500, right? Just to put something there on marketing costs, because I would want to pay myself for that time, if nothing else, right? And I'm not saying $500 is your answer. Like, all these numbers that I just wrote in front of you, these are the numbers for every deal, every transaction that happens. It doesn't matter if it's creative finance or not. Okay, so let's understand that. So if we come back up here to this money bag situation and we swap out these puzzle pieces again, seller has deed, seller has property, buyer has no money, right? Let's just erase that money. Well, now with creative finance, buyer comes in and maybe buyer, instead of giving bag of money, he solves a problem for said seller, and seller doesn't want to manage the property anymore, or seller doesn't want to pay taxes on the property anymore, or seller doesn't want to pay taxes on the property when seller sells property, and that's just going to be, that's a no-go for him. Like, whatever that problem is, buyer's going to come in, we're going to find out what that pain point is. Now, that pain point is a trigger, right? It's a lever. All right, hopefully this makes sense. But in all transactions, there's a few levers that you can pull, all right? And those levers are cash. Oops, I wrote it with the wrong pen. Disappeared. Cash, right? That's how much you're going to pay. That's a big lever, right? Time, that's another lever. And then you can do your interest rate, right? And then your down payment. And I messed up that order. I got another lesson that I can really break down that for you guys. But essentially, I'm going to be pulling these levers. So with the seller, if they want cash, that's cool. It depends on if this cash is high or if it's low. If it's high, then I'm going to get all of this and they get their cash. If it is low, well, I'm going to pick which one's more important to me, whether it be time, a payment, whatever that is, right? Maybe we're just going to the bank, or maybe we're negotiating that with the seller. But my point of showing you these cash, how much the seller is actually receiving, your down payment is, and actually, just so I can explain this better, I'm going to replace cash with price. That's better. Okay. So whenever I mention cash, it's actually price, right? Because I don't want you to get that confused with down payment. All right. So with price, if seller wants 200K, property's worth 200K. Well, where's the win-win situation there? We have to create it. Well, I can give seller 200K if he gives me 30 years, right? Because in 30 years, I know that the price of the property will go up, right? Or the value will go up. But I'm not going to like take this into a lesson where we're pulling these levers and like really get in depth to like, you know, creating the transactions. But like, I just wanted to plant this seed because your question was, well, what's the entry fee? What is the entry fee? And you need to understand these basic concepts in order to even be able to talk about the entry fee. But again, though, the entry fee, it doesn't matter if it's creative or cash, you still have an entry fee. All right. It's the same thing. All you're doing is gathering and you're underwriting the deal. All right. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And yeah, if you get value for this lesson and you want more stuff like this, let me know. And we can definitely go in more detail with some real life examples and we'll crack it open. All right. Let me know if this helps.